So it's my pleasure, if everyone is ready to start, to hand over to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Barry Rawlings.
Hello and good evening to everybody, and welcome. And thank you for joining us tonight. This is, as Kath said, our third one. And since we were elected in May 22, we've put in place sort of our plan for Barnet, which is a general vision for people, places and planet. But we know we can only achieve that by listening to your views on how we run our services and invest in our places, giving you a say in the decisions that affect you, which is why we regularly hold question times like this. We've introduced other ways for residents and businesses to engage with us too, for example, public question time at full council meetings, deputations on specific issues at full council and cabinet, and also our regular meetings with local businesses to provide them with more support. We can post details about this in the chat. And I'll also remind people, if you do sign up to our email, the Barnet First email, it's another way of keeping up to date with what's going on. Now, we're keeping this session open to questions on all council-related issues and themes. And just to reiterate, we cannot deal with casework questions in this forum. And that is, if you think about it, there's going to be well over 100 people here, and we can't talk about people's personal information or personal case in front of everybody else. Do email us and we can get back to you about that, but not during this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Do the members of the Cabinet want to introduce themselves at this point as well? Yeah.
Let's be sure. Come on.
Let's start at this end of the table.
So I'm Paul Edwards. I'm a councillor in High Barnet and I'm the lead on adult social care. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Councillor Pauline Coakley-Webb. I'm the Cabinet member for Family Friendly Barnet, which is everything to do with children and families, and I'm a ward councillor for Free and Barnet Ward.
Good evening, my name is Councillor Alison Moore. I represent East Finchley Ward and my cabinet portfolio is health and wellbeing, which includes all the council's public health responsibilities.
I'm Ross Houston. I represent West Finchley Ward. I'm Deputy Leader and my portfolio area is homes and regeneration.
I'm Councillor Zara Begg of Underhill Ward. I'm Cabinet Member for Ecology, Diversity, Inclusion, Communities and the Voluntary Sector.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Councillor Omar Naqvi. I represent the Burnt Oak Ward and I'm Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure, Arts and Sport.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Alan Schneiderman. I'm the Cricklewood Ward Councillor and my Cabinet responsibilities are environment and climate change.
Hello, I'm Anne Clark. I'm also a councillor for Cricklewood and my portfolio is community wealth building, which is local economy, engaging with businesses and reducing poverty in our borough.
Hello, good evening. I'm Sarah Conway. I'm a Burnt Oak councillor and I cover community safety and resident participation.
Thank you to all of the Cabinet members. I'm going to move straight to questions and I'm going to also apologise in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name. Please don't take offence. I'm reading off the screen sometimes for the first time. So I'm going to go first to our first hand, which is Mr. Wayne Chodosh. You want to unmute and ask us your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
Marvellous. Just a quickie. Councillor Rawlings, I think you're doing a marvellous job. I told you that at a meeting the other week, and you really are. Now, my question is there a facility for reporting things like faulty traffic lights and holes in the roads and things like that? Is there a facility for reporting it so that it can be seen to?
Schneiderman, yeah.
Yeah, hi Wayne. Yeah, there certainly is. There's various ways of reporting it, but if you go on the council website, there is a page where you can report potholes and any other, street-based issues, and we'll pick it up and you'll get a response back, and it will be fixed. There are some things that will be the responsibility of TfL, particularly traffic lights, and if you report anything like that through that, we would pass it on to TfL. But TfL will also have if you Google TfL, broken traffic light, you will find their own way of reporting that. But we'll pass it on if it is anything that's not a council responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Schneiderman. If you've ever been on TfL's website, you'll know that I would like to go to Barnet's website.
Well, you're more than welcome to go to our website, especially as I so complimentary about council buildings.
I'm going to be strict because we don't want any follow-up comments, even if they are lovely compliments. The only thing I would very quickly add is there are some third-party reporting sites like Fix My Street. Those do get to us eventually, but it takes an awful lot longer. So you're absolutely always best off to use the council's website rather than one of the third parties, if possible. I'm going now to Mr. Shanbir Singh. Nice to meet you, Mr. Singh. I think we've emailed many times, so good to put a voice to a face.
Yes, hi there, Kathy. Ross and as well as Barry. I've been communicating with you guys for quite a while. One of my key concerns is that the development on Little Strand has included private land that doesn't belong to neither the council nor Barnet Homes. However, last year, both Ross and Kathy signed off on a site development plan that included private land. Been trying to actually correct this. My lawyers have been in touch, said, look, it's criminal. I was just wondering, from that point, what has happened, because HB Law has been struck off, and there's ongoing investigations with HB Law, with their ability to actually act within this framework. However, my question is to you guys: how has this occurred, and are you guys going to correct it?
So I'm going to pass that to you, Councillor Houston, but I'm not sure there's going to be a huge amount you can say in a public forum.
No, there isn't. I mean, obviously any sort of issues raised with that's like the issue you've just raised, we look into and take seriously. HB Public Law is actually an in-house law department which is shared with Harrow, so it's not struck off. It's actually the in-house team that we share with Harrow Council. And you know, the issues raised with you were looked at. So I think, you know, as Kath said, I can't get into the detail of that at the moment, but clearly we don't you know, we have to take anything that is said to us seriously, look into it and get the lawyers to look at it. And at the moment I'm happy to take this offline with you again, but it's not something I can comment on publicly at the moment.
Thank you,
Ross. I'll be in contact after this. Thank you. This meeting, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Dr. Fortes. Dr. Unmute, Dr. Fortes. Have I pronounced that correctly? Fortes. If you can't unmute, I will go to the next person with their hand up and come back to you.
No,
so
I'm
you're
unmuted.
here. Lovely.
I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Excellent.
I had a whole list of things, but you've told me only one. I didn't realise that. I'm talking not for myself, but for quite a lot of residents here. Linford Gardens is like Brands Hatch with Lewis Hamilton or Jackie Stewart at the wheel. There are many families living in this area that have got 4, 5 or 6 children, young children. They're all under the age of 10. They wander around on their way to school. They go off walking. They're never mindful of the racetrack that is around them. And is there something that can be done in Linford Gardens and Broadhurst Avenue to get these motorists to drive slower? Other than speed bumps, we've got potholes now, so we don't need speed bumps. Is there something we can get to save these children before there's a serious accident? This is the only thing I'm asking for at this stage.
Hey, Councillor Schneiderman.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Forsyth. That's a great question. There are lots of things, you know, that it depends on the circumstances, but there are things that, you know, that we can do about speeding that aren't road humps. In particular, like we're making it easier to try and get 20-mile-an-hour zones put in areas which have proved effective in other places. I think the best thing is I've made a note of your road and happy to get officers to have a look at that and see what can be done in that particular area.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councillor. And Dr. Fortes, please do email your other questions to Barnet questiontime@barnet.gov.uk.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I next have Sonia Karafistan. Would you like to come off mute?
Good evening, panel. My question actually is related to Dr. Fortes' one. I live on Beaconsfield Road. We've recently found out that the area is going to become a quiet school zone between 8 and 9 and 3 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. That presents a number of problems. Beaconsfield Road is already a rat run. It's used throughout the day. By stopping people from accessing the Crescent and Holly Park Road in those critical 1 hour slots in the school day, all that's going to happen is that all the problems that are presented around the schools are going to be pushed onto roads which are already congested, which are already high traffic. And remember, we are an access route for Teddy's Nursery, for Fry and Barnet School, St John's School and Holly Park. I just feel that what's happening with quiet zones around school in those 2 hours of the day is just pushing the problem, and no consideration has been given to the surrounding roads, while particular very specific roads are protected. What it means is everyone else then has to suffer with the increased traffic, all the congestion, and no doubt all the arguments that will follow because people are looking for the park and they can't access the school.
Another one for Councillor Schneider.
Oh, thank you, Sonia. I mean, you know, we are introducing school streets to try and make it safer for children to come to and from school, both in terms of road safety and in terms of improving the air quality around the school. Part of the consultation in framing all of that, the one you referred to and the others, is to try and avoid, you know, look at framing the zone so it doesn't avoid as much as possible pushing traffic elsewhere, because we don't want to do that, but we do need to try and make it safer for, you know, for children and for parents who are dropping their children off at, you know, at that school.
And just related to that very same point, you were just saying to Dr. Fortes that the 20-mile-an-hour zone rollout has been very successful. I can tell you on Beaconsfield Road, it's been highly unsuccessful. It's routinely ignored. Our road is like a racetrack, and there needs to be, an approach to calming traffic around schools that doesn't focus on single roads. If it's going to happen, it has to be wider. I'm also conscious that we're vilifying.
Your point now very clearly, but I did ask for no follow-ups because we do need to get to as many people as possible. So
we'll get in touch on you. We'll take that up with you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry to cut you off. Do apologise. Next, I have Tricia Gay.
Yes, good evening, and thank you very much for taking my question this evening. I really appreciate it. I'm a director of the Rainbow Centre on the Dulles Valley Way, and I was wondering whether you could possibly tell me what the council's plans are for the Rainbow Centre. We have been promised that we will be relocating to the cricket pavilion in Barnet Lane and Underhill Barnet Lane for quite some time now, and we seem to be no further forward. Now the centre is rapidly running out of money, and we are actually now in a crisis situation due to not having a lease and not being able to generate any income because we don't have a lease. The centre, as you probably are aware, is also in a state of disrepair. We face a situation where we may not potentially be able to offer the local community a vital resource in the food bank and the lunch club, just 2 examples of what we actually do there. So basically, my question to you is, can you please confirm that we will be moving to the cricket pavilion, and if so, when? And what is it that you could possibly do to help us in the interim? And I'm very grateful for you listening, by the way. Thank you very much.
Councillor Houston or Leader?
I'll do that, Tricia.
Okay, thank you.
But funny enough, I was just thinking that, yeah, about 9 years, I remember about 8, 9 years ago, talk about moving into construction rooms. It's been about that length of time.
Yes.
There have been some hold-ups and on the development of the whole King George V fields and so on.
Yes.
But you're right, it is difficult to raise money while the future is uncertain. If you email me, I'm quite happy to come down and talk to you because I've known the Rainbow for years.
That would be amazing if you could.
I'll come down. I'm not saying I'll have the answer or there's a way to put it, but I'm quite happy to sit around the table with you and some of the other trustees to talk about a possible way forward.
That would be absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'll email you. I don't know whether I have your email address. Where can I find your email address?
If you send it to the Barnet question time email
Okay,
account, make sure it gets onto the leader.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you once again.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, Tricia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marianne Riscala.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for putting these questions on. I run a not-for-profit organisation, North London Music Therapy, that works with people across the lifespan, providing mental health support. And my question is, there are councils of all shapes and sizes that are either their mental health budget is at risk or they're cutting it entirely. So what does Barnet, how is Barnet going to meet the increased need of people within the borough with probably a smaller budget? And how are you working with the VCSE sector in order to do that? How can we talk to you a bit more, basically?
That includes a few people.
Yeah, I was going to say Councillor Moore first, perhaps, or do you?
Yeah, it'd be briefly, and also talk about what we're doing with children and adults, where there's been
that'd be great.
Co-produced mental health charters for both young people and.
Okay. We work with a number of charities, quite a number of national charities who have local branches within Barnet, so there's a lot of work, grassroots work goes on, and we'll come. I'll let Pauline talk about the co-production work that went into the mental health charter and young children. We'd also there was an adult version of that as well. So we worked with Mind and a number of other groups in terms of co-producing that, both with them and with all their a range of people with lived experience. So yes, money is a challenging area. Certainly once you get into the NHS aspect of that, that is challenging. But we work a lot through the VCS, and I think that the element of co-production and working and looking at where we can best put both our people resources and our financial resources, and be creative. Actually, like you, as you are with your music project, actually there are lots of different ways to support people to improve their mental health and well-being. But I'll now pass on to my colleague, Bonnie Coatley. Hi.
Yeah, I think what we've done certainly over this year is make sure that we actually listen to the voices of young people across the board. This has happened at full council meetings. It's happened with a project called My Say Matters. And then we've done the adults and the young people's mental health charter, for which we just had a competition for them to do posters and gave them awards. So what we're actually getting the feedback is that the young people are actually really appreciative of the fact that we are noticeably taking notice of what they say and wanting to listen to their views and take it on board. And when you look at things like the Youth Assembly, where they debate and put their points forward, it's really been amazing as to how they feel there's been a really good change as to making sure that they feel involved in what we do as a council, not that things are done to them, but that we actually take on board their views. So I think in terms of what you're doing is brilliant. I'm not sure what age groups you cover, but any sort of therapies that help people along the way or with mental health is certainly always welcome right across the board.
Yeah, we're 1 to 100, so we're right across the lifespan.
Okay.
Excellent. Councillor Begg, did you want to add anything on the working with voluntary?
I just needed to add that Barnet Together, which is an alliance of all our advice agencies in the borough, have produced a mental health charter that they are working on to give as much advice to residents as they can through all of our advice agencies in the borough. So I can send you that if you are interested to have a look at that as well.
That'd be great. Thank you very much indeed.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. I'm now going to go to Juanita Stefania Spahaj.
Good evening, everyone. My question is about what more can be done about fly tipping, including rubbish on private land where some owners who don't want to cooperate and keep the driveways clean and instead throw hazardous eyesore rubbish, destroying the amenity of the area and having like a negative impact on the environment. What can be done about it? Also, if you want to sell the house and you have rubbish next door, you might have to slash your house price up to 20% to be able to sell it. Thank you.
Councillor Schneiderman?
Thanks, Denisa. I mean, there are fly tipping. There has been an increase in fly tipping, not just in Barnet, but across London and across the country. But there are various things that we are trying to do to tackle it, including the fact that we introduced community skips quarterly in every area, so we can try and encourage people to, put their waste in there. And there's other actions that we're taking in terms of writing to landlords and also trying to do more enforcement. So whenever waste is fly tipped, officers do actually investigate to see if there's any evidence of where it's come from, so that we can look to take enforcement action. The best thing I can say is if you drop us a note to the email address with details of your location, then we can, we can have a particular look in your location. But do report it, because we are very good at clearing it. But unfortunately, it is a bit of a problem.
To be fair to Danita, and I've been copied in the emails, I know where you're talking about. There is difficulty when it's on private land because it's the landlord's is meant to clear it. But I know in your case that landlord's not going to clear it. So it's when it becomes an environmental health hazard, because it doesn't count as fly tipping if it's just in their garden or whatever. But if it's excessive or if it creates a danger by attracting vermin, then we go down the environmental health route.
I think Councillor Conway, you might also want to.
Oh, it was just a quick point actually that Councillor Schneiderman and I sort of worked together on some of this stuff, and we did a meeting recently with officers to look at what measures we can do and try out different ways going forward, just to add to the things that are already being done. So that 2-3 months.
Yeah.
To be progressing that through the year.
Thank you, Councillor Conway. I think the next speaker with the hand up is a councillor from a neighbouring Harrow. So Councillor Krishna Suresh. If you want to come off mute, Councillor Suresh.
Yes, hi. My question is, as a Middlesex University alumni, I am wondering whether how you're, because it is within your borough, and how are you facilitating the current student and the students who have completed their studies in terms of training or employment? How are you engaging with your university?
I can. There are two parts to that question. We have a lot of joint work with the university. Obviously, it's almost next door to the town hall, and there's a new vice chancellor that's starting in July, so there is a bit of a waiting for that. On the jobs front and the skills, you're quite right, because one thing about Middlesex University is it provides a good learning experience, but most people end up working somewhere else, and we don't do enough on the skills apprenticeship side to use the talent that we have. We've got a very talented university, and a lot of it leaches away to other places. So once the new vice chancellors start, we will have a meeting about the whole skills agenda, and I'd work with West London Alliance Skills on that.
I'll just pick that up. Yeah, I'll pick that up a bit further. We have met with their employment department, which I forgot the name of it, but basically it's the moving on from Middlesex department. We are working with them on apprenticeships that we both have in the council and that are available throughout Barnet. We've also worked with them on young entrepreneurs. So we hosted together with them a bit of like a Lion's Den event. We do work with them consistently, but it is about seeing where we can keep people in local employment that come through Middlesex University. It is a working relationship. It's an ongoing relationship, and it's something we're very interested in doing. If Councillor Sharash, you'd like to meet with us separately about that, I'd be very happy to do so.
Oh, I will do. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, I'm afraid I don't have a surname. It's Barbara.
Hi, Barbara Jacobson. Nice to see everybody again after so long. A very simple question about libraries. One of my big concerns in the past. Under the previous administration, a lot of library rooms were vacated, supposedly to be let on commercial basis. I don't think that ever happened. I think those rooms are still empty. And in the meantime, there are lots of children who need to study, who can't get in because the space available is too full. So is there a possibility that the council could look again at just reopening these rooms just to make it available for more people to study there?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Barbara. I was right there with you when the library campaigns were happening in the mid 2010, so I remember them fondly. So we've got a library strategy that will be consulted on in the summer coming up. So I do encourage you and anyone who's interested in the future of the library service to feed in your ideas as to what the future of our library service will look like. But the immediate response I would have is we are of the view that libraries are now in the modern world more than just a building with books. They have a wider civic role within society, and the ability to rent space for all number of things, for creative displays, for incubator space, for startup companies. That is part of what our understanding of the library service in the modern borough of Barnet is. The current spaces we have available in places like the Church End Library, which are some of the newest libraries available in the borough, they've become phenomenally well used by banks in particular to provide mortgage advice to local residents, and that's proved to be an incredibly important resource for local people. So I would hesitate to deny people that ability to use libraries in creative and new ways. But as I say, there is going to be a consultation in the summer, so all views are welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Nackley. The person I have next is Stuart Lee. Mr. Lee, do you want to call?
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I'm a Mill Hill resident, and I know you haven't got a Mill Hill councillor specifically in front of me, nor a roadways one. So I make my question general, but there is a specific behind it, which is I'm interested to know, and this relates to something that someone said at the very beginning of the questions, interested to know what the governance process is around residents having discussions with, making complaints to the council through your actual official process, and the governance process in the sense of someone actually looking at the complaint, responding, and where agreed doing something about it. And I do have a specific in mind, but I have an example of something that the council agreed to a year ago, it then got undone, right, by some, this is relating to roadways. And when it was pointed out that you made a mistake of not redoing it, I've had to make several complaints because there is a safety issue behind this as well. And I've not received a single response to any of my stage 1 or stage 2 complaints, even though I had a very nice customer service person. And I was told the only thing I can do is complain to the ombudsman, which I have to wait another 2 months for. And I just wonder what governance process there is, so make it general, around people making complaints and actually someone actually bothering to respond about them.
Sorry to hear that, because we fit into the complaint procedure is a time limit by which replies should be given. They may only be ignored, but replies given. And then, as you say, it can move up to stage 2, stage 3. And once it's exhausted, it can go to the local government ombudsman. So there is a process.
You wouldn't believe how trivial this particular example is. I can mention it if you want, or leave that aside. But not to get a response, not to have the council do anything about it when they've actually agreed that they need to, and indeed a year ago had actually done it. It then got undone by the roadways contractors. But my main question was more general about Yeah, what's the point of making a stage 1 complaint and a stage 2 complaint to a very nice customer service agent who has no ability to do anything other than log it in a system and they want to respond?
To be fair, we do, obviously, like any big organisation, we get several complaints and most of them are sorted out to everybody's satisfaction. It sounds like it's gone wrong. If you want to put it into the question time email, the details of the case, I can give you a detailed reply, but we can't do individual cases.
No, that's why I was
for other people.
more general, and I would gladly give you the details of it into that email and visit.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We look forward to the email. Next, Gina Theodori.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking my question. I just wanted to ask actually about the tranche of road safety improvements that a few of the other earlier participants have talked about. I live in the Maze Lane one, and there's quite a lot of dissatisfaction within the community with the consultation process itself. And I understand that Lionsdown 1 was withdrawn for revisions following a lot of objections and dissatisfaction. In terms of Maze Lane 1, we also would like to participate alongside key stakeholders such as schools at a much earlier stage in the process. So things like working with highways and the council to identify problems and the scope of the schemes, optioneering design, that kind of thing, before it's actually put to public consultation. Because we are in the unique position of understanding the types of challenges that we face on these roads here. So that kind of two-way conversation during this process will allow more accurate identification of the problem and provides a more realistic scheme that the community can own and get behind. So my question is, in the same way that your citizens' assemblies allow local people to be involved in shaping community or climate action change, what can the council do to ensure that these types of road projects and other things that affect the local community actually allow for more participation so that we can shape where we live beyond a simple consultation based on an already determined option?
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Schneiderman to comment on that one.
Yeah, thanks, Gina. I mean, you make a valid point, and we do want to try and engage people earlier on in these schemes so that, you know, you and residents, schools, businesses can have their say before there is a final scheme. So we do want to look at how we can do that better. And there was quite a lot of consultation over Maze Lane, and the consultation was extended. I think we wrote out to like over 3,500 properties about that. So there was quite a bit, but you do make a very valid point. I think going forwards, we do want to look at how we can, you know, capture that sort of feedback and input at an earlier stage. So we are looking at that, Gina. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, Gina. We have been talking about the Maze Lane consultation, and we had the meeting that you organised with other residents, and Highways came along. You did make those details to us, which we have taken back. But just to say that in Underhill, we're consulting with 1,200 households. So we have to be a little bit more realistic as to how much we can do beforehand before we come up with a consultation. But your views about what residents can be involved in at the earliest stage, we have taken that back. We are looking at it. And as you know, the Maze Lane consultation has been extended to the 7th of March. So again, I just encourage everyone to put in their views so that we can take those away and look at those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Begg. I'm going to go to Kenny Lowell now.
Hello, hi, thank you for hosting this meeting. So I guess my question is, with the construction happening on Little Strand, when will Barnet Council, and I guess that's yourselves in the room, take the severity of the residents' concern and disdain for the project seriously? So outside of the loss of parking, with some freeholders actually losing some amenities such as parking, which is included in their deeds, the destruction and disruption to the livelihoods of people living on Little Strand with the ongoing construction, I think the most alarming issue, which is a shared sentiment amongst the people living here, is the complete deviation from the original specifications that you presented to us during consultation. So we have Yvonne Williams, who is part of TPAS, I guess, as a mediator, But I'm sure I can agree with, I'm sure a lot of residents on the call from Little Strand can agree with me, where we have continuously engaged Barnet Council around these ongoing issues and there's been complete silence. So I guess it's now we have to organise ourselves, because we need you to hold yourselves accountable for the disruption to our lives with this project.
Councillor Houston?
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, it isn't, this is the project that we obviously has been in the pipeline for a number of years and which we inherited, but it is delivering new housing and that is needed. And it is challenging to build new housing and do it in a way that causes minimum disruption. And I do understand that. I am more than happy to look again at specific concerns residents have, and I know that parking is one of the issues that has been raised. There has been a lot of officer time put into trying to deal with some of the challenges around Little Strand. But at the end of the day, it isn't, and we do want to listen to residents and try and get this right. So I'm more than happy to take this issue up with you separately and look again at what there are further things that we can do to make life easier.
Yes,
but it is a situation where actually, the construction there will be a period where the construction does cause some disruption, and I can't pretend otherwise. It is something that I'd say it's building new housing, which is very much needed. But we need to listen to residents about doing it in a way that makes the disruption the least disruptive to parking and to everyday life. So I'm more than happy to meet you on site and look at those issues again.
Yes, if you could provide your contact details so that we can actually arrange that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Again, if you come in through that email address, we'll make sure that gets to Councillor Houston. Michelle? No surname again, I'm afraid.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. I would just like to let everyone know I'm a resident of Totteridge, and I would like to present my question with just some quick context. So on the 21st of February, I was viciously attacked by a young female who's a complete stranger, a schoolgirl, whilst I was on the way home from university on the bus, just on Totteridge Common. And after that, I had stitches, and now I'm on bed rest for the next 6 months. Mind you, this was completely unprovoked, completely unprecedented, and this was a schoolgirl. This young female has done this 5 times already. The police is aware, and she attends a school which has excluded students in it. Like, this is like a study center, I believe. So they're troubled kids. I wanted to ask the council, how is the council allowing these students to travel in the TFL, and how they don't have some private sort of school transport, and how strangers like I've never known this girl, never met this girl, but she's done this 5 times to like other bystanders that the police has come to conclusion. How is this happening? Like, how is the council allowing students like this to travel in the TFL? And like, because this has been a process now for 2 weeks, and I feel like it's a very slow process. So I wanted to ask the council, because I don't want this to happen to anyone else, the position I'm in, because I'm on bed rest for the next 6 months. My whole life's been completely halted. I work, I go to university, but I don't want this to happen to anybody's sister, anybody's child. You know, the situation I'm in. I wanted to ask, what kind of steps will the council be taking if there's a troubled child, or if there's a student or a school of troubled children, to be going or to be taken in a method of transport that's completely private and not public. So they can't be doing this to other individuals.
I'm very sorry to hear about your experience. Before I hand it over to councillors, I think we do need to be a little careful about not commenting on what's obviously an ongoing police inquiry. Councillor Coakley-Webb, did you want to make some general comments about travel to school, travel to the pavilion?
It's fine if it's not something specific. I just want like an overview of what the council will be doing for this to not happen again.
Yeah, I think obviously this is being dealt with by the educational establishment where this student is or was, and there's probably an ongoing inquiry. So it's very hard to comment at this stage. But I think obviously we tried on every student to encourage independent travel, but I should imagine that this will be reviewed certainly in relation to this. But being an individual case, there's not much further at the minute I can comment on it at the moment. I'm really sorry that this has happened to you. But as you said, this must be now being dealt with by the police and with social care. So, please feel free if you want to get in touch with me, but when it's an individual case like that and it's an ongoing case, there's not much I can comment for at the moment.
I'm also going to bring in Councillor Conway, who's our community safety lead.
I'm really sorry to hear what's happened to you, obviously. If you want to email us separately, I'm happy to take that up with Road and Transport Police about the actual bus route that is, because sometimes when there are issues, the police switch their policing onto certain routes. I can certainly look into that offline. And I also wanted to check if you've had support from victim support, because we have a support hub at the council and victim support more widely. I know the residents can be really helpful, so I just wanted to mention that too.
And if you'd like more details about that, then do email in and we'll make sure those get back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Thank you, and thank you for raising a really important issue. Robert Sachs.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much. I have an issue with pollution, light pollution and noise pollution. If I start with light pollution, I'm referring to the security lights that so many people put on the front of their houses to come on when they approach their homes, or unfortunately, when cars go past their houses, the lights come on. I perfectly well understand that people would like to have lights there and have no objection, but the lighting that is so often put on is suitable for an airport runway. And we have the bright lights. This is not an exaggeration. I'm surprised we haven't had complaints from Heathrow, and this is Windsor Road in Church End. But they shine into other people's bedrooms, and it's unlikely that anyone's going to climb out my front bedroom to attack someone opposite. So if this could be in the long term, it's not an immediate thing, neither by second aspect, which is noise pollution. If people could understand that if they need lighting outside their houses, immediately outside, it doesn't have to come on every time somebody walks past their house or a car goes down or comes up the other way. It's very, very disturbing. I have complained about one neighbour, and he was told to change his lighting. It was absolutely ridiculous. There are others. So if you could look at that in the longer term, please. And the other thing is noise
Very quickly,
pollution.
if I can ask you to be Mr. Sachs, very quickly.
Sorry?
Very quickly, if you could, Mr. Sachs, because this is really two questions and I did ask for one. So super fast.
Okay, noise pollution is longer term. I'm talking about leaf blowers, hedge trimmers, not vacuum cleaners, lawn mowers. Vacuum cleaners are okay, but it's like living in an industrial site. There are days when I can't use my phone for an hour or two because of the noise. If this could be looked at, it's difficult at the moment because this is what the professional people are using. But if there were a limitation on the decibels that these machines can produce, they would find an alternative. Thank you very much. If you would just please take note of that and perhaps raise it at a council meeting and something could be done about it. Thank you very much.
Very quickly to Councillor Schneiderman on that one.
Thank you, Robert. I'm sorry to hear about your light and noise disturbance. I think I mean, you said that you said that the neighbours had been written to already and asked to change their lights. So please do email us if there is. We can certainly check that their lights are compliant and aren't causing unnecessary disturbance. Regarding the leaf blowers, it is a bit more tricky. I know it was a big issue on Radio 4 a couple of years ago. But, people causing disturbance with leaf blowers. I'm not really sure, in honesty, what the answer to that is. But if there are, if there are other things, do report them, and we can check. But there are some things that I think aren't easily dealt with, and leaf blowers is probably one of them.
Thank you, Councillor Schneiderman. I've just been reminded that there are a number of people have said where they live. We would prefer it if you didn't give out personal details like that on the call, because obviously we have no control over who's watching the recording, so wouldn't want anyone to put themselves at risk. I'm going to go to Mr. Hamill now. Brian Hamill.
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everybody. It's just a little point that was been brought up earlier about the school safe streets. Now, something just mentioned about Mares Lane. I actually teach at various schools. We teach robotics to obviously different schools. We teach robotics to obviously children with special needs, as well as autistic children as well. Now, the school streets are causing us major problems because I cannot take my car with all my equipment into these streets because I haven't got an exemption. Right, if there's something like this comes up with, like Underhills is one of the ones we actually run summer camp there, Easter camp as well. Now, if anything happens to those streets that I can't access, it means that we're out of a business. We're already struggling because of the COVID implications. We had to borrow the bounce back loans, and we got all that to pay because we nearly went out of business then. We're starting to get ourselves back on our feet, and if we have more of these safe streets that we can't access, it could put us out of business, and it means that the children are going to lose a major part of our teaching or STEM stuff. We teach engineering, we teach the coding to them, we interact with them so that they have feel that it actually instigates their well-being, so they can get on and actually get in. It brings them out of the shell they're in, and if we start doing that, it means there's something that we have a passion for to teach the children. We could lose it because of that we have no access, because I can't go to any particular borough and say I need a pass or an exemption for my vehicle, because they're all different boroughs, and it's only if you live on that street you can get an exemption.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Schneiderman, did you want to comment on that?
Thanks, Brian. I mean, yeah, each borough will have their own arrangements, but with regards to, and I say the purpose of this policy is to try and make it safer for the children coming to and from that school. There are certain circumstances under exemptions under which certainly school staff are able to access school street during the hours they're in operation. So I think if you, I was just going to say, Brian, if you drop us a line, we can definitely check with regards to what school you're visiting and if it's essential to visit that time, whether there is any possibility of you being able to get an exemption through the school in order to visit, if that's essential to what
Yeah, well, I'm not up to speed on what's happening at Underhills as regards the new layouts and things like that, but I know there's going to be quite a lot of restrictions put in place. So hopefully that doesn't affect us, because we do. And I think the big problem as well is if it's brought away during half term or any other holidays, if it's not enforced then, it won't affect us that much. But the schools I teach go to the after school clubs where some of the streets are actually enforced. So I can't actually go to those schools. We've actually ignored several schools in Barnet because I can't actually get to those streets. Okay. And what St Paul's at Free and Barnet is one of them. You're not allowed to drive into that street at certain times. So
it sounds like one to follow up offline if we may.
Yeah, we can get back to you, Brian, when you.
That's okay, because I think there's obviously a real issue there, but I'm conscious there's still quite a few people wanting to ask questions. Yeah, we'll pick that one up separately if we may. Paul Adams.
Yeah, good evening, councillors. Thanks for taking my questions. I live very close, without giving away my address, very close to Summers Lane recycling plant, which is obviously very well used. I use it myself. The hours are advertised as 9 AM to 4 PM, but they're very noisy from 7 AM in the morning. I'm talking moving skips, dropping skip. I mean, sometimes my house actually shakes from the noise from the skips being moved. Now, when this centre was reopened, there was supposed to be a noise barrier built, I believe. But if there is a noise barrier, it's not very effective. And there were some tree lines behind there which were cut down a few years ago. Would it not be a good idea to plant some more new trees around the back of the centre to give us a bit of a natural barrier?
That's again, popular tonight.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to look into that for you and check. And I know that, you know, that the centre's run by the North London Waste Authority. I know the staff are asked to be mindful about, you know, noise that's being caused outside of operating hours particularly. But I'm happy to take it up with the North London Waste Authority and see if there is anything more that can be done on the boundary there. Certainly do appreciate, you know, it does cause, you know, a bit of disturbance to neighbours, because it's actually one of the most popular centres within the Northwest London area. But yeah, I'll happily take it up with the North London Waste Authority for you and see if there is anything more that can be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Porter, I absolutely admire your commitment to engaging with our Cabinet through this process, but there are some people still in the queue who haven't asked a question yet, so I will come to them, and then if there's time at the end, I'll come back to you for a second question, but I think we should allow everyone a first bite of the cherry first. So Howard Gross, if you'd like to come in. Gross or Gross, yeah. You're unmuted, Mr. Gross. If you want to come in, please do. I think we might be having some technical challenges, so I will come back to you in a moment. We can't hear you. Got quite a lot of background noise, but we can't actually hear you. So Liam Sullivan, did you want to come in, and then we'll come back to Howard Gross?
Yes. Basically, I'm one of the residents who wasn't even thought about in the Little Strand development. You took away so many spaces of parking which were there for a reason. I live right in the middle, which is not actually on a street, so I wasn't actually taken into consideration at all. I listened to that gentleman earlier on saying they're providing us with homes. We have homes. You're not providing us with anything at all. You're taking away from us. We're existing residents who are being penalised for no reason whatsoever. And you're saying you need homes. You have got rid of so many flats and everything on Graham Park who are now being handed over to Notting Hill Genesis. They are building, I think it's something like 10 to 12,000 properties. And you've decided to wedge 36 properties into a road which doesn't have the room for it. And now the place is so overcrowded, and it will be overcrowded. People are going to start fighting for car parking. I'm probably going to lose my job anyway because I'm a mobile engineer, so I need my vehicle. And I just think you people just, it's like with something you've stepped in, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Councillor Houston, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I'm happy to come down on the site and look at the issues again. As I said earlier, this is a scheme that we, as an administration, inherited, but it does provide housing, and there is not housing for existing residents, but we have thousands of people on our waiting list for housing.
Yeah, and you've just given away a load of properties to Notting Hill Genesis.
Mr. Sullivan, I think you need to, if you're going to ask a question, you need to listen to the answer, please.
I will address that. The whole regeneration of Graham Park goes back, decades, and the deal with, the arrangements with Notting Hill Genesis, I go back a predate. As long as I've been a councillor, that's about 2 decades, we've had that arrangement and that regeneration project going forward. It's taken a long time, far too long in my view. And if I'm honest, if we were, my first preference would be to do what we're doing in the northeast in Graham Park, which is to partner with Barnet Homes to deliver a new council housing, which is what we've managed to do, taking part of that regeneration scheme out of the master plan and making it a Barnet Homes a scheme. But we can't redo the past. The regeneration project has been agreed, the planning has been agreed, the planning framework, and it is providing new housing for London. So I accept what you're saying about losing the fact that we'll have fewer council homes. They will be affordable homes, but they won't be council housings, although the existing residents will be kept on the same tenancies with social rents. But we are where we are with that, and our job is to make sure that the rest of the regeneration works as smoothly as possible, that where possible we can get more affordable housing out of it, and particularly social rent housing. That's what we're doing in the northeast. I will come down and I'll look at Little Strand again with officers and with residents, just to look at the issues around parking. And I do understand your frustrations. It is not easy to be next to a building site. I've lived through that myself, so I do genuinely sympathise with you. I'm happy to try and see if there's anything practically we can do to help. But the scheme has planning permission. It goes back several years in terms of its origin, and it will provide more housing. And across London, there is a pressure to look at smaller sites to make sure we can provide new housing. And with good design, it can work well. So my offer stands. I will come down to Little Strand and have a look again with officers. But that's I'm afraid the best answer I can give you. I do agree with you. If it might be something we would have done slightly differently. I think Graham Park North East is my preferred option going forward. But we are where we are, and the regeneration is more than needed in Graham Park.
Thank you, Councillor Houston. Shall we try and go back to Howard Gross, who we couldn't hear before? Mr. Gross? You've unmuted, but I'm afraid I still can't hear you. As you've had your hand up, perhaps if you were to type your question into the chat, and then we'll come to it that way. Although I know I said we wouldn't come to chat questions, but you have been waiting very patiently, and it's a shame that we can't hear you. So if you get typing, I'll go to the next person, then come back to your question from the chat. In the meantime, Christina Spivey, very nice to see you, Christina.
Hi, everyone. I hope you hear me okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how you guys are able to help in this issue. So I've been living here for 21 years and I have my indefinite leave. So recently the immigration office changed their rule. It took me a year to open the bank account because I was deemed as maybe my immigration status became a question mark. So because there's so many changes over the years over how indefinite leave is being used, it's been applied. I do not have a biometric, but because I was applying for a bank account, then I realized because I do not have a biometric to prove my identity. But now I got my biometric, but over there it said that the biometric card will expire in 2024. So I am very concerned that if I leave the country and come back, will I be detained because my biometric is expired and the indefinite leave visa that is on my old passport, would it be recognized? So I think there's a lot of people that could be in the same situation as me. So right now I'm quite fearful of leaving the country and wondering whether I can come back.
Councillor Begg, are you able to?
Yes, so well, first of all, congratulations that you have now got your indefinite leave to remain.
I had it long ago.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear about the issues you're having and the concerns you have. If you leave the country, you might not be able to come back in. I don't have all the answers for you, but if you do, and I think you might need to get some legal advice on immigration about your visa entry and exit. But if you write to me, I certainly can help you.
Okay.
We can take it up with your MP.
Yeah, I was absolutely going to refer you, Christina. This is actually something that national government deals with. It isn't a local government matter, so you would have to refer to your MP in the first instance to assist you with it.
Okay. I mean, I have to thank my bank for highlighting that I might be an illegal immigrant because of my status, but yeah, I shall do that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I don't think I've seen a question from Mr. Gross. Oh, have I? I'm going
I was just going to say some questions are coming through on the chat.
Do you want to go? We've got people with their hands up. Do you want to go to the chat? Yeah, let's take one or two questions from the chat, and then I'll come back because I don't want people who've had their hand up to miss out.
Okay, so there's a question. Unfortunately, there is no name. Just D, the initial D. Why are school streets going ahead if residents are strongly opposed to them? Is this a tick box exercise, or do the councillors actually want to listen to residents?
No, I mean, school streets, the consultation's definitely not a tick box exercise. And often they're requested by the schools. And in some there have been some cases where, as a result of feedback from residents or from issues raised by schools, some of them haven't gone ahead. And I think there even have been a couple that were removed because they weren't working. As I say, on the whole, we want to see them because we are trying to, make it safer for children and for air quality reasons. But the consultation is definitely not a tick box, and all the responses are taken into account.
Okay. I think Tristan's saying I think that's probably enough for the chat for now. We'll come back to it if we get a chance. So I have next Lorraine Beans or Venez. Apologies for not being able to pronounce your name.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Hi, I wonder if you can help. I'm in the enablement package of care. We work for Barnet, Your Choice Barnet. On January, we got thrown at us that our jobs are gone. So we're in like limbo. They're talking about they can give us jobs, but in other places that might not even suit us. And, like one of the jobs come through as a plumber. Who wants to go and do a plumber? I'm a carer. I can't go and do that. And what are going to happen to these clients? Because it's a package of care when they come out of hospital for 6 weeks. So it's to get them back to their enablement. So they don't have to go into care homes and that. So what is going to happen to these clients?
Councillor Edwards, did you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, I'm not really going to comment on your individual case. I think you need to raise that through the proper procedures. I think that was the advice that was given by Assistant Chief Executive at the beginning of this. But in terms of the enablement service, and again, that's a decision taken by Your Choice Barnet and the Barnet Group. My understanding is that there has been a decline in the demand for that particular service. But what I can assure you is that anybody that you are currently caring for, who you know in the community, who's known to adult social care, then they will not lose out at all. They will be getting the service if they're assessed as having the need for the service. And if there are any individuals that you know of that you think are not going to get a service, then by all means get in touch offline. But I can't obviously discuss the individual cases. But the enablement service run by Your Choice Barnet, as my understanding is going to cease business. But from an adult social care point of view, that we can purchase that service elsewhere. But I have been assured by the Chief Executive of the Barnet Group that anybody in the enablement service, I'm not comments on the issue of being offering a job as a plumber, but my understanding is that there is work in the Barnet Group for people who are currently going to be displaced by the closure of the enablement service.
And thank you, Lorraine, and I believe I'm needed to come in. Yeah.
Just to say, hopefully, Patrick, or you already know, but I am meeting the workers in the enablement service. I think it's this Friday afternoon, so we can take this up. We can take this up on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about the meeting Friday. Is it online or is it in the office, and at what time?
My understanding it's in person.
We've booked an office, but whether we can do a hybrid, I don't know. It's in the Colindale office, but we can see whether we can expand it.
And it's at 2 o'clock. I'm going to move us on because I've cut other colleagues off, other residents off. So I'm going to move on, but we will make sure you get those details and that it's as flexible as possible. Next, I've got Thank you. Next, I've got Alan Cummer. Alan, I see that you're from one of our partner NHS organisations, so perhaps you'd like to say whether you're speaking in a personal capacity or on behalf of that
I'm speaking in a
organisation.
personal capacity. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, councillors. I'm a long-term Barnet resident who happens to be disabled, walks with a stick very slowly, and I'm wondering if there's anything the council can do about the nuisance of bicycles on the pavement and also electric scooters riding on the pavement, which are extremely frightening when they come up behind you at great speed and no noise.
Alan, Councillor Shannon?
You talk about people cycling on the pavement rather than
Cycling on the pavement and using electric scooters on the pavement.
Yeah, I mean that is an issue for the police. Obviously, electric scooters aren't private electric scooters aren't allowed to be used on the roads, let alone the pavements. It's you know, the police will take action if they are there and see that, but it has to, you know, it has to be something, you know, they have to be around at that time. I certainly do appreciate, you know, the problem, and it does, you know, it's a problem for everybody walking along the road, let alone people with disabilities.
I must say that I have never yet, since the invention of the electric scooter, seen one being stopped by a policeman anywhere at any time, let alone in Hendon Central where I live.
I mean, I think one thing I could say, Alan, is do let us know if there's a particular location, because we do have meetings, and ward councillors regularly have meetings with various police teams and their areas, and there is a particular problem in a particular place. We can flag that as an issue.
There is a problem in Hendon Central.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
If you
I've made a note of that, Alan.
Email us with perhaps more details of the specific streets. That will be really helpful and enable us to take it up with police colleagues. I'm now going to go to Chong Ho. To unmute yourself. Chong Ho.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you for hosting this question time this evening. I wanted to redress a point that I had taken up with Councillor last year and earlier this year with regarding to the it's about litter, the fly tipping around the Deansbrook shops promenade. So again, a previous guest has raised that there's been fly tipping, and when I raised it last year as well, I was advised that Deansbrook Road is also included in the alternative side cleaning schedules and attended by a mechanic sweeper on a 2-week schedule, which, to be honest, I have not witnessed, although I do work from home quite frequently around that. And more recently, when I was raising a point, the reason being is because Barnet Council is also looking to add a EV charging point along the shops to attract more people to come to this area. The place that they chose this parking spot happens to be right next to one of the bins, which is always overfilled. And again, I didn't feel that it was an ideal location because you'll be stepping out into rubbish. Because the shops there do include so like food shops, you know, it would also attract vermin. So foxes, rats, they do appear, they come around evening times when the bins are full. The bins will be full from about 6 o'clock, and it doesn't get cleaned up until 8 o'clock in the morning, or at worst 10 o'clock in the morning, because the people, when they collect the rubbish, the van comes along and it goes straight into the van. I don't really see it being enforced or evidence that they do check of who's fly tipping. It just gets chucked away. And with the foxes, it does become an issue. They, you know, come into the residential locally. They, you know, howl at night, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, which will wake people up. It is a constant battle just to get the streets cleaned. And given that refuse collection, based upon Revenue Outturn Report on 22-23, Barnet spends the second highest out of the London boroughs behind Hammersmith. circa 12,000, which is nearly twice the average of London. So I'm not too sure what Barnet is doing when they do spend on refuse collection, but there doesn't seem to be any improvements.
I'm going to ask a councillor to come in. I think we've heard your point loud and clear, and we don't want to take up all the time with long questions. So Councillor Conway, I think, wanted to come in first, and then perhaps Councillor Schneiderman.
I was going to go first. Thank you, and hello again. I know we've been in touch by email, and I'm aware that various of these points are being looked into, including the bagging collections and how that works, because all of those queries that you raised are all being looked at. And I know it's a particular problem in that area, which has been flagged with the council officers who are going to be looking into it. In terms of the EV charger as well, I certainly sort of sent on the response, but I don't know that's something we could look at possibly if there's a particular problem in that actual spot.
Yeah, no, well, I think, we will. We'll look at the location, review the location of that EV charge point just to check that it is suitable to be in that location.
Thank you. I'm going to skip past Brian Hamill and Dr. Fortes again, and we will come back to you if we have time. So I'm going to go to Jude Pereira, who I think is next.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling in from Free Barnet. I'm a resident here for the last 8 years. Very happy to be here, but just wanted to raise a point that, since of late, there has been a lot of robberies, and my vehicle, which was a Range Rover Autobiography, was stolen, and this is the second time my vehicle has been stolen. Now, I know it's not a Barnet Council issue, but when we call the Met Police, they're so used to it, they barely just listen to us, and then they don't tell us directly, but it's like something that you got to raise with the local council. I'm not the only victim in the area. I've seen in the last week alone, we've had 9 vehicles stolen. Coming from a tech background myself, more than happy to help. But my question is there anything that Barnet Council can do to kind of help or create fear at least?
Councillor Conway?
So thank you very much for raising this. I chair something called the Safer Communities Partnership Board for the borough, which is, as it sounds, a partnership which includes the police, justice, public health, etc. We had a meeting on Friday, and actually we have a sort of non-public bit of that where we catch up on stuff together, as well as the 2 hours that are public. And we talked about vehicle crime there. I'm very aware, particularly from having been door knocking recently across Barnet, of the vehicle crime issues in certain places. It's certainly something the police are looking into. They would advise using Faraday bags and things like that. I actually asked on Friday if we could share some of their comms around how to protect yourself better. This worked really well a few years ago on catalytic converters when they were the thing that were being stolen there. And also there was action taken further along the supply chain as well. So it's something that does require a comprehensive approach, not just what the local police could do. And it is a particularly difficult crime at the moment to track, but I will certainly carry on raising this and discussing with our partners. I think they may be looking to do some sort of joint meeting with further discussions on it. And if you'd like to email me, I'm very happy to take that forward and get back to you personally as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Conway. I have no more hands showing, so I'm going to come to Tristan to pick up some questions from the chat, if that's okay.
Yes, we have a question from Mohammed, who asks, I wonder if it's legal for the shops in Watling Avenue to extend their shops to the pavement to a great extent, making life difficult for pedestrians and especially for people like myself, who is visually impaired, or for mums with buggy.
So I'll kick off, Mohammed. So there are legitimate licensing concerns that you've raised in that case. If you are impeding the public footway with material without license, you are in fact in breach of one of the licensing objectives. As a result, that is something that you must report, and enforcement ought to take place. So please, the individual shops and storefronts that are falling foul of their licensing requirements, please let us know and we'll make sure that enforcement takes it up.
And I wanted to add, if that's okay, we have a Barnet Partnership Board that's been meeting for some time, meets every 4 weeks, might go to every 6 weeks soon, where there's been walks along that path. There's been residents very closely involved in co-production of what the future of the High Street can look like, with plans to widen the pavements, have trees, etc. So if you'd like to get involved in that and want to email us, we can send you the details as well.
Thank you, Councillor Conway. I've got a couple of new hands and a couple of familiar hands, so I'm going to go to Ralph Palash first.
Good evening, and may I say what a good idea this is. My question is about road cleaning. I live in Bridge Lane, but the little bit of Bridge Lane that lays on the Hendon side of the North Circular, it's about 200 metres long, probably less. The postcode is NW11.
Please don't email us the postcode. It's a general question. Councillor Schneiderman.
All right. I'm concerned about my little bit of street that lays between the North Circular and Bell Lane. It's called Bridge Lane, and it's only about 200 metres long. It doesn't seem ever to be swept. When I look at Bridge Lane on the Golders Green side, it's pristine. When I look at Bell Lane, which is the extension of the little bit of Bridge Lane that lays in Hendon, that's pretty clean too. And that my little bit never seems to get cleaned. I've complained to my local councillor and I've written to the council. I've had no action or no response, although my councillor did respond. He told me to write to the council. But it really is, it's beyond dirty. It's absolutely filthy. That's my question.
Thank you, Councillor Schneiderman.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. I'm sorry to hear that. We've invested a lot more money into street cleaning, and generally the figures from Keep Britain Tidy show that there has been an improvement. But we'll certainly make sure that your part of Bridge Lane is looked at, Ralph. We haven't forgotten it. Or we may have forgotten it, but we'll make sure we
get it back on the list.
we make sure it's no longer forgotten.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Robert Stephanie, you wanted to come in with a question. Robert Stephanie, you're currently on mute. Did you want to unmute? Okay, well, while you're finding your unmute button, I will go back to Dr. Fortes for a second question. He's also now still on mute. Okay, Brian Hamill, would you like to ask a second question?
Yes, I certainly would. I've been in contact with Councillor Paul Lemon, I'm sure you know him, and this is to do with a tree that's been in our street, and it's grown up from a sapling from over the last 35 years. And that tree has, over the years, got so big that it's been going through our telephone lines and cables. The amount of seedlings have come off of it have actually overtaken a lot of our hedgerows where we had beautiful cherry blossoms every year, and been absolutely destroyed. Now, that tree, say when I first moved in, it was completely wasn't there. I mean, so it's grown up. It's never been treated, never been sort of taken off, but it has caused us problems with our telephone line. Now it's actually grown up 3 times the height of our cherry tree, so it's completely over. It's just so daunting. Now I had I've been in contact over the years. There's a couple of little things have been done. Now the recent thing that I've had back from the Frederick McLeod, McLeod is the principal arboreal officer, is that I can confirm that we have had significant issues with our contractors' resources to complete the planned programs of work that should have been done. I think it was several months ago. And the last email I had was over a month ago, and I have heard nothing since. Are you still struggling with the contractors?
Councillor Schneiderman, are you able to answer?
If you we'll certainly follow that one up, Ryan, and check exactly what's happened. I don't know.
Yeah, but you said following up. I've been following this up for years.
Well, if you drop us a line, I'll definitely. I mean, I'll speak to Councillor Lemon about it as well. But we'll definitely get a response back to you and find out exactly what's happened.
You just said drop you a line. I've been doing that.
Okay. Oh, you haven't dropped me a line, but yeah, we'll look into it, Brian, and I can guarantee you'll get a response. I can't say exactly what the issue is, but you'll definitely get a response, and we'll see if there's a problem.
Considering the bad weather we've had and the trees being pushed over and shoved over, it's a lot taller than our house now.
Okay. I think we've got the position that you're coming from, and Councillor Schneiderman has undertaken to make sure that you do this time get a response. And I apologise that it's felt like hard work to get this far, but we will now make sure that gets followed up. I'm going to give Robert Stephanie, who hasn't yet asked a question, another opportunity. If you wanted to come off mute, yes, Robert Stephanie.
Right, thank you. My question is about parking in the Ridgeway, Mill Hill, because there are lots of Ridgeways. This one is in Mill Hill. This whole area has been the subject of a massive amount of residential development. As I'm sure councillors know, there have been literally thousands of new units built around the Ridgeway and Bittersea Hill NW7 in the last few years, all within about half a mile of my house. And the road system has just been ignored. It's the same as it always was. It's no wider, it's no different, it's the same. And it's now carrying a huge amount more traffic. The result is that driving along the Ridgeway has become much, much more difficult for ordinary cars, and in some places pretty well impossible. There are long queues of traffic. If you happen to be driving a bus or a large van or lorry, you have no chance of passing another vehicle unless one of it, in some places, not everywhere, usually someone has to give way and it causes delay. And if you're a bus driver, then you've got timetables to comply with. If you're driving a fire engine or an ambulance, again, you're going to be very annoyed because you will not be able to pass another vehicle on many parts of the Ridgeway, including the area outside my house. So traffic flow is a problem and parking is a problem. Because there have been so many new units built, there's been an awful lot of new cars around, and there is no space for them to park. On our stretch of the road, we have single yellow lines. Now, because we are in the CPZ of Saracens, those yellow lines only stop people parking there when there's a match day. And there's only about a dozen in a year. So, and they're always on weekends. So consequently, the yellow lines don't really stop a lot of parking. They stop none. So there's always cars parked on our stretch of the road. And when I come out of my drive, because traffic is coming fast up Bittersea Hill and along the Ridgeway, and cars are parked, it is impossible for me to see these cars. There is a blind spot, and I just take my life in my hands when I come out of my drive. It's very, very difficult, and it's very dangerous. There was an accident last June, and it was a major accident just outside what is now North London Studios.
We have 4 minutes, so I'm going to, I think we've understood your area of concern. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Schneiderman so we actually have time for an answer as well.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I think I mean, you talk about the times of the CPZs in operation. It's really difficult to find agreement among residents about what times CPZs and parking restrictions operate. But I think the best thing I can say is if you email us, we'll have a look at the situation in your particular area and see what potential solutions are. Like I say, residents often disagree about the times that they want parking restrictions enforced on, but happy to have a look at that area, particularly if there are, road safety issues there.
Okay, thank you. Can I just make one other point? That is the North London Studios. They have a lot of spare parking capacity there, but they tell a lot of their visitors to park in the Ridgeway. I know that because I've asked people who have been parking their cars in the Ridgeway, and they say we're not allowed to park on the land owned by the studios. So the studios have a lot of spare parking, and I would be very grateful if someone from the council could speak to them and say, you've been given permission to carry out this development and you've got space there. Please, will your visitors be allowed to park there?
Yeah, well, we'll have a look at that, Robert. I mean, obviously, if it's private land, it's up to them who they allow to park there. But we can look into it and maybe speak to them and see what their response is.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes left. Dr. Fortes has been very patient and I've been past him many times. So Dr. Fortes, if you did want to ask one very brief question, we might be able to squeeze it in, but you will need to come off mute to do so. No. Okay, in that case, I will go to Tristan, my colleague, to see if there's anything from the chat that he wants to flag.
There's just one quick question, which comes from the CG, just those initials. Given the amount of new build flats and conversions taking place in Barnet, can you quantify how much extra revenue this will bring in for the council?
It's Houston.
Oh God, this is unfair.
I think it's hard to quantify exactly, but it does obviously bring in a revenue in terms of council tax. It also creates, when we house people and it's affordable housing, it definitely saves us money in relation to temporary accommodation for people in desperate need of housing. And obviously, new people bring in revenue to town centres and to transport. And actually, one of the reasons why in Barnet we were actually in a bit, we were in a better position with some of our schools is because we've got development and regeneration, because actually school numbers are going down in London, and actually in Barnet we're in a strong position because of that. So you get, so new development does bring lots of advantages. One of the things that you do get out of new development is a capital, infrastructure. It's called a community infrastructure levy, and that's something that's put in there to provide the infrastructure to sustain the development. So when you're expanding, building new housing, you put in the infrastructure, whether it's roads, council facilities, and SIL, as it's called, can be used for a number of things. It also provides funding for things like our area committee budgets. So the borough does benefit from development and regeneration. But it's very hard to quantify. I mean, I'm sure somebody probably could academically do a study and say how much is it worth to Barnet over the next sort of 10 years. But it certainly brings in economic advantages as well as direct benefit to the council and the community.
Thank you, Councillor Houston. Councillor Knackby, did you want to come in very quickly? We're just over time.
Very briefly. So this sort of speaks to the difference between our attitude, this administration's attitude toward housing, and that of the previous administration. So the underlying sort of thought there that housing is primarily about revenue generation or about what kind of revenue you can get from it isn't the attitude that we take. Mr. Sullivan earlier in respect to Little Strand also made an intimation of a similar sound, that you're not doing anything for residents who are already living here, the 400,000 residents that currently exist in Barnet. Part of why we've taken placemaking very seriously, why culture is something that we've decided to make a strategic priority, is because we realize that there is a benefit to the wider Barnet community in developing an infrastructure that caters for future generations, future communities who want to build families, build lives here, and benefit from increased service provision across the entirety of what is a very vast borough. So I think we look at the ancillary benefits of it, and the fact that we can provide people who've lived in Barnet for generations an opportunity to stay in the borough. Their children, the people that call this place home, can actually afford to continue living here.
Thank you, Councillor Knackby, and thank you, everybody. I apologise that you can't see me. Unfortunately, my connection has dropped out of the call, but I hope you can still hear me. Thank you all for giving up your time tonight to take part. We are planning more of these sessions, both online and in person. Please do drop us an email on the Barnet question time at barnet.gov.uk email address if you've got any ideas about how we can improve the session. And apologies to anyone who, I think we got to everyone that had their hand up at least once. I don't think we got to everything that was raised in the chat. So if you do want a follow-up to a question you may have raised in the chat, please do email us as well. The recordings of the event will be posted on our website once we've added the subtitles, and we'll share the website link in this chat as well as through our Barnet First e-newsletter. And if you haven't signed up to the e-newsletter, I'm sure someone will now post a link in the chat for how you can do that. They didn't know I was going to say that, so they're all now frantically typing to try and find that. But in the meantime, thank you all again for joining us this evening. I hope you found it useful. We certainly did, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.